Hello everyone, how you doing today? Pretty happy to say the carrier made it out finally last week Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday. Yep. And yeah, so that's making me pretty happy. I attempted to take 24 hours off from EGS yesterday. That didn't work out so well. Um, it's all good though. It's all good. Partially, of course, I was like, well, maybe I should start texturing up this other thing or work on this other thing, and you know how it is. Always more to do. So I have begun texturing this here. I didn't texture the landing zone pad yet because I need to like reconfigure everything and get into storage and all that stuff, which is going to go across this area and attempt to balance the weight. However, I keep on thinking I know weight is a big thing on HVs where they'll lean to one side or the other depending on how weight is. But to be honest, I was thinking, like kind of going through all the past SVs, and some of them distinctly had cargo on one side or the other, which would really put them at a imbalance in weight, and I never noticed any effects from it. So that is something I'm wondering about too. Is would if this was heavily weighted to one side or the other, I'm not expecting it to tilt or lean into where the weight is. I don't think that that mechanic is in the game, but I could be proven wrong on that one. And that's when I set this up pretty soon. I'll have to test that in weights and volumes and survival game and see if that theory is true or not true, because I'm not 100% sure on it actually. I know it's a big thing with tanks, so, or well, HVs. But speaking of HVs, I wanted to get cranking on this guy again here. And first thing I wanted to do, I think, is start doing some modding. For the most part, I don't mind it. Of course, I'll try to add a little bit more flares and effects and a little more Skaar-like things to it. But my biggest issue right now with the tank is the sides. I'm trying to keep it really tight and have everything flush and not block the turret. But on the last video working on this, I was toying with the idea of making it one block wider for the turret, which would allow me to get some other decoration blocks in there too. And then I found another reason to possibly justify going the one block wider, and that is I could probably pop in another couple reverse thrusters on it, because it's running 8 right now, maybe take that to 10. The point of this is I'm trying to make this thing as quick as I can. I've got CPU available yet, so if I can get in some more thrusters, well, basically the better. So let's get started on this here. Okay, so let me get symmetry going. So I already kind of had set up. So my first objective here is to take out this turret, and then I was thinking about building something out in this area to hold the turret, one block out further than what it is currently. There's different ways that this could be done, but I'm thinking about trying something a little different here. Rather than trying to do some angled weds, I'm almost thinking about trying to build up kind of like this round turret holder in some sense. But I think what I'm going to do is try to make it look like it's separate part and use these half thin round blocks here, like that. And then kind of build something in the middle where it looks like it's kind of connected, but then you'll get that little line in between. And with these new transition blocks, there's a perfect block for doing this, and that's just this one here, which kind of has that same half block, and then it goes into a larger round piece. So that can line up and like connect it to there. Then actually here I could just probably use some simple blocks, or if I wanted to have that little bit of fluctuation in how it looks again, I could use something like this. I'm going to try it because just gives you a little bit more texture surface area. The more of that you can get in, the more texturing you can do, and the more detail you can add, essentially. So that was part one. So then obviously the turret can mount there instead, but now that's going to give me some options over here on the sides to go out a little bit more in block rows. Now, figure out how I want to do this part here. I'm almost thinking about at this area here to kind of have this kind of fold out instead of inward like it is. Oh, probably wanted to keep those. So let's start there and then try to maybe angle this out a little bit here. Oh no. Okay, so that I want it to go out a full block row because I'm going to probably reposition these turrets here. But yeah, the other objective was, can I get some a couple more reverse thrusters in here too. So, and you know, even possibly more strafing thrusters as well. Has quite a few already, but again, goal is to get it as fast as I really can get it to go. Well, I mean, you know, maneuverability, not necessarily like outright speed, but how quickly it can change directions and things like that. One thing that does suck, though, is all these new thrusters that I want to use, which are more powerful versus the size they take. They don't have shaped versions, and that is something I would really like to have here. For instance, like these thrusters, these medium ones, which are, let's see how much thrust do these guys do. Force 130 versus 345. So these are only one block smaller, but you know, not quite, but getting close to 3 times as powerful. But the other thrusters here have the option where, like, if I were to remove those blocks, I could put in this, which I think would just straight up look better because then they could match that angle properly. But then again, effectiveness, they don't do as much, so that's kind of an issue. So we'll have to think a little bit different on that. Okay, so let's pull those two back out. Back this off again to about there. And try to get some trim above here to make that all work together. Not sure what angle wedge I want to use for this yet. Could try this. Potentially keep that angled. See, if I did do this though, the problem is going to be I don't want to go out another block row over this to shield this thruster from the side, because I'm trying to keep it tight to not going out any further than this. If I go out much more, it's going to have issues trying to get into the size hangar door it's supposed to fit in, which is a 5x9. So I don't want to have that issue. And 5x9 is, yeah, I know I've said this a lot of times, it's kind of my standard go-to hangar door. I don't like to put like CVs with anything smaller than 5x9. I think it's just, it's a good sized door for most things that I've made in the past. There's a few exceptions to that would require a 7x13 door, but not a whole lot. do that there. I was trying to leave like a little bit of these visible on the very bottom there of these hover engines. And I think I've got a way to do that and keep this half row with the same angle there. Yeah, this half block will pull that off, so that's cool. Here, I'm going to get this off the ground a little bit so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay. And then, at this point, right after that, it can start to angle down again. Maybe like that. This is all attempt, mainly, you know, if I can get a couple more thrusters in it, that's great. But a lot of it's just cosmetic here. And, you know, it's not going to hurt anything having another row out here, I think. I think it should work with that. Now, this whole row of thrusters here, too, can also probably be moved out another block row. But I'm going to try to separate that thruster with a block in between it in case this one gets taken out. It hopefully won't damage the thrusters over here. That actually did reduce the thruster count there by a couple, but maybe we can get those back into play. Maybe here. Alright, let's see. Now, what do we do here? Kind of neat to have some kind of like metal strip beam that's a little bit more detailed over here. I think the first thing I'm going to have to do is try to transition the blocks into fitting that properly. This is one way to do it, but I don't really like that part then. Or maybe my angle's just not the right angle to be using here. Kind of wonder if I didn't go this route maybe. With that, I'd have to change these. Basically using the same blocks, just turning them a different way. It makes it a little bit more sleek that way. Let's see what happens. Now, I'd really like to have this lip here, but there's no transition block from that to having this little surface area. The surface area, to me, when it comes to a straight point and it's right above that, it looks really flimsy, and this makes it look tougher, in my opinion. So that's kind of why I wanted to do it like that. But then it's not going to mesh up here very well. But you know, it's Skaar too, and that's, you know, some of the characteristics of what I've been trying to do is that they're not like these perfect designs. They've got strange jaggies and things in them, and that's kind of intentional to give it that more crude look. So okay, so now these blocks here, I think should probably conform. Maybe do the same thing on the bottom. And maybe I should just slap in another one here and have just this big solid row of thrusters, which will give it even more strafing thrust. A lot of strafing thrust. But it's, you know, if you're going to put strafing thrust on something, SVs and HVs are, well, combat SVs and HVs would be your number one thing that needs a lot of strafing, or would, you know, benefit from a lot of strafing. CVs, especially like starter stuff, no, not really. They don't really. In fact, on the newer starter CVs I've done, they've have very little strafing thrust on them, just enough so they don't float around, basically. You know, if you got so much CPU, that's just kind of a waste on that kind of craft to try to give it a lot of that, because then you're going to cut down your CPU for other things. Alright. Interesting there. So here, still be kind of neat, like the front ones, that little half block there where you can kind of see those on the bottom. I'll try to do the same thing here. In this case, I'm going to take that same inverted block and then move it upright in those areas. So that doesn't work out so well in the back, does it? Or maybe I shouldn't do that. Alright. Let's do this this way then. 1, 2, 3, and then we can again kind of curve this back up, I think, by using this block, and that'll make that all jive. And then this one's off. Now we can put in a wedge there. A little bit. Something like that. Again, little deviations and stuff, but that's part of what it's about on these guys. All right, so now here, maybe just some little trim, little something to look at. That doesn't. It's not a lot of blocks, not too terribly complicated, but maybe something like that. Maybe continue that a little bit in the back here too. Alright. Now as in rear thrust, I think it's got enough. Running, what, 24 of those, I believe. I think that should do the job. And now we're up to 10 reverse thrust. And what do we got actually here? 6, 9, and another 8. So 17 strafing thrust. It's quite a lot. And that turret should be able to not be interrupted by any of this stuff over here. And the only thing I don't like is having this open on the side. Bugs me a little bit, but I'd rather have it open than try to put like a row of stuff over here and causing it to have issues. I'll have to test the width on that though to see if it's still viable if I put something there, but I know it would make it harder probably to dock. Let me put some turrets back here for now. Alright. Take a look at some specs real quick. Okay, so we're at 80,000 CPU, and I know I already plunked in a shield and the big expensive parts. So basically what's left in here on CPU parts would be storage. And that storage goes a pretty long ways, I think, so not too worried about it yet. I guess if push comes to shove, I could also reduce a couple turrets on this again. Or not turrets, but thrusters. So okay, cool. Let's say that is relatively correct there. The front zone here with the harvesters. Still not ideal. But I'll keep those there for now. Maybe modify that later. Let's get into a little bit of texturing on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to steal the texture palette from some other Skaar creation. The way I do this, I mean, you can put these things and save them at different settings, but a lot of times, just for quickness, what I'll do is go to one of these, go to the custom option, touch on the first one, hold down shift, touch on the last one, which will highlight everything between, and then I hit copy. So then when I go back to the other creation, I will sometimes highlight them all the same way just by holding shift and hitting this last one, and then hit paste, and then it'll take that color palette and move it over here. Alright, so base texture on Skaar is actually this one, but I have been trying to occasionally put in a couple of these depending on what pattern you happen to run into, and you'll see there's a bunch of different blocks. And then I also do some things with coloring too. There's like 3 body colors. There's this lighter white, actually 4 body colors. There's lighter white, there's a kind of a medium dark, a really dark, and kind of a medium in between the two. And I usually start by laying down a lot of this texture and then start to manipulate that or change it and add some more stuff in. But my base color that I do most of these creations in is this medium gray here. So we'll start there and see how things come out. But I'm trying to think about like lines, like where these thruster rows are. I think I might want them darker, and the areas in between it lighter. So with that being said, now these textures right now, obviously when you're going through this, especially in symmetry, you can't really control from one side to the other, you know, how these line up, and you're not going to get perfect alignment in most cases. But I also learned it's a waste of time right now if I try to align these until it's more done. So I'm just going to kind of mass paint a bunch of stuff here right now. And these rows here are where I want the dark. And that's cool that you can retexture that. At least it can be hidden, so that thruster's not like sticking out like a sore thumb. It is a little vulnerable from the side, but if you lose it, I guess, oh well. It's so you got a lot more. Okay, so I'll just for now wrap that color scheme around the front area as well here. Keep in mind that a lot of these textures will get changed and replaced, so, but it's just easier to get kind of a general idea of what you want to do before you get too far into it. I'm going to add a few more blocks in here too, just to finish that area off a little better here. Alright. Now when you do this, there's 2 ways to do it. Obviously, if you're in like a survival game, you're not going to be able to texture the way I'm doing here by flying in God mode and jumping in there. But, well, I guess you can. You just have to go into God mode. But save some time. I mean, another way to do it would be to remove all the parts and then texture underneath them, which a lot of times I do it that way as well. It depends if I can't get to something or not. Okay, so we do that, and then let's see, this row here, this top row, I think I'm going to go with this lighter shade here for now. this row here, I think I'm going to go with a different gray again. See how it all looks when it comes out. If it doesn't look right, it gets changed. Oops. Okay, and then you're going to be dark as well. Not that dark though. Something like that. Now below the thrusters, technically another thruster could be added there too. I'll leave it out for now. What to put underneath the thrusters. And let's see if we can get some of this in here somehow, somewhere. Just would like to find a nice pattern with it. Like, see, that lines up pretty good, but who knows what it did on the other side. Yeah, it's different on the other side. Actually, no, I think this part here, I think I want to go just darker, especially on the bottom. Something like that. I'm always messing with the colors. It's these little fine color differences that kind of discovered when doing most of this. You can see this same kind of example up on the crawler and stuff too, where you got like one row that's this shade and one row that's this shade, and then this is a different shade from those two, and then there's some extra darker areas in certain places on it as well. Same thing with this one here. This one's got like extra dark, then medium, and then a different shade here. That's kind of what the styling on these sort of comes out to be at the end, or what I'd like them to be at least. But I got that dark row, and then I got this dark row here, so that doesn't necessarily do it. But for now, just trying to get some of these areas filled in a little bit there. Probably ought to start to get some detail into here with some other textures. We're gonna want some form of texture lights here and there. Like most designs, though, I try to be sparing with texture lights. If I overdo them, I don't think it looks good, and if you don't have enough, it doesn't look good. It's just trying to find that balance between the two, where there's some and just enough to kind of give it that look, but not to like try to do it too much. And some randomness, like putting two different textures next to each other, I do like too, especially with this faction. I'm not thrilled about this little wedge line here. I wish it lined up to that, but there is no such block. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to double check that. I don't think there is a block in existence that actually would do that. Yeah, there's these guys, but they're different. They're not the same thing. They're bigger and yeah, never mind. Alright, so on the edges here, a lot of times I will use this, and this is kind of the case also with human and Empyrion. But I'm going to try to, rather than just do a solid that, I'm going to try to get a little bit of variety in here. Actually, it's a great opportunity to add a texture light with this race too. And I use basically two different textures for texture lights primarily, and that is this one here with the red, or this one here, which I never used on anything else, also with the red. But in this case, I know this one looks good if tilted the right direction in red like that. So you can get like a couple in there. I don't really feel the need to do it the same thing on the bottom or to have more lights in there either. But then I'm gonna change my row orders here and put those in these spots. Well, here, let's just do them all. And then swap out some, maybe with something different like that. Something like that. Okay, so then the base under the thrusters. Oh, I don't know what I just textured. Okay, let's try some of this. It is easier to do this kind of thing on CVs than it is HVs or SVs due to the block size and your motion when you're moving. You can kind of fit into different areas a little bit better. Get them all? Nope. That. So here too, let's try to get something in here to break it up a little bit. So wish I could just count on some of these textures to be the right thing I'm looking for. It's alright though. Here. For now, I'll just do all that the same. I did that darker so you can so it'll stick out more with the lighter behind it. Probably should have done the same thing here too. Okay, so back in there, could try to, oh no, I don't want to do that. No, this should be white. About, yeah, a little bit of this on this front lip here. And, but on the top, see, we're using the lighter. I'll just keep doing that. Maybe that here too. down here. I could try more of this. Come on. Oh, I can do it with the collision that way. Oh. Some of these you can't. It's just like the collision blocks you from getting the textures, but I guess I can do it on those. Let's break it up here in the middle, though. Do something different about a random piece like that. Okay, maybe another one of those there. And there, too. Okay. About that, and then get a little wacky light in here. Oh, I lost power too. 1 sec here. That, or alternative option. There's another light I use too, and that is this. On certain block surfaces like that, it comes out where you just see the one part there. It does kind of stick out a lot though, so I don't really like to do it too much. I did it somewhere on this ship. Yeah, in this back area right here, but I think that should work out. But in this case, maybe I'm gonna try. Okay, that's not gonna look good there. I'm gonna go with this one for now. I know it's funky, but at a little bit of a distance, it kind of looks cool. All right. Got a lot of missing blocks in here too. Okay, so in the center, I've got kind of a neat little strip there. I think that would look kind of neat, dark, because then you got the lighter sage on the two sides of it. So let's just do that for now. Another place to add something here. Just that there for now. Alright, so how about these turrets? I want to find something that looks neat here. Maybe a little bit different than anything else on it. I don't mind that too much, but I just want to see what other options there are. Something that would kind of... that's too mechanical looking for where that would be. Nah. That's pretty good too. I hardly ever use this texture. How about we try it there? I like the texture. It's just I don't like the white line syndrome it has, but it doesn't look so bad with the Skaar. Maybe on top of these things, maybe try to get a couple more texture lights in here. Well, couple, as I'm putting in like 4. Maybe that's too many. I'll just put them on the two sides and not the top and bottom then. you'll ever see this, but it's alright. Okay, so you don't see that part. These can be, maybe like that. Just for fun, even though this is invisible, I'll just do it anyway there. Okay. And then on this thing, just go really dark and then kind of fill it in, so just kind of something that sticks out there. Okay, so for the turret position, this I do need to remove to texture under it because you can't get to that block. Now, because I use that other part, the UV is just completely whacked on it, so it puts it at a 45-degree angle, which is like unique from everything else in the game. So I need to find something that doesn't look hideous there. Don't really want it to have texture lights. In this case, I'll just go flat. I think it might be the best case. And then maybe something like that. Alright. See, now the big thing is how do I divide this up? Because I don't want too much of the white, but it's going to be kind of hard to not have a fair amount due to the angles that I can't like make a smooth transition into something else currently. But what I'm thinking of in this case, to add a kind of stripe thing, maybe. Let's see how this would work out. Let's say I took this and did like a, we'll just say a double row randomly there. Okay, so maybe a single row. A weird stripe there. Okay, well anyway, this is a turret position here, so gotta figure out, on most cases I could do the turrets the same way. I'll try to follow the same format that was done under the turrets on the side. It's pretty typical as well. See what would happen if I change the tone on the front here a little bit. Okay, so now that sticks out. Of course, there's a bazillion different ways you could probably paint this, so, I mean, can't be too picky. A lot of that will get, you know, when you do the final tweaking and trying to detail it up and maybe find a better way to do it. Or might have an epiphany before then, too, so you never know. Oh, actually, this row, I didn't want that light. Alright, we want you dark again. To get that contrast difference on the row below it. How's that gonna work here? Not too bad, really. It just has a way of looking grungy when it's all all said and done, mainly because of using some of these textures like this. The cheese graters are always a nightmare to texture around. They kind of looks at those as full blocks, so it's probably just a lot easier removing them. Other side's going to have some issues. Some things don't texture the same from one side to the other. Like those were missed. There's a lot of this general block formation going on this in a lot of different areas. It probably look good if they're all kind of textured the same in some regards at least. Trying to find something that might look good without trying to do too much. Trying to vent there right now. Oh wait, now then I had the other part. Oops. Alright, so I probably ought to start pulling some turrets off here too. Just want to remember where they all are. That's what I did there. So this is just kind of routine now. And that is another thing though. I've got all these solid turret positions, and the full blocks that are there are actually a potential loss of detail because more can be done with the block work. I think that, and it's also something that can be copied and pasted to a lot of different locations on here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to remove symmetry a second, and I'm going to work out one of these turrets. I've done this on other ships before too, where I dig in to this whole row of blocks that are there and then manipulate them to come up with a different pattern to get some detail below the turret. There's not a whole lot of things that'll work here though, but so what I'm trying now is to do something like that. And then on the corners, it actually, what can we do in the corners? Maybe something like that. That might work. Let's see what happens. Alright, so do we want to get any lights here? I don't think so. It's Skaar. Maybe if it was Creel or something, I would think about it, but that's a weird little thing there. Just go like that. Okay. And then you know what? I could actually keep this part a different shade, like it was over there. Alright, since this is going to be copied and pasted, let's get some decals on it as well. Let's see, I've been kind of using this as a, like, hey, a weapon goes there kind of symbol. Can do that as well, or something like that, or both. Maybe in these far corners, a couple of cautions. I'll get rid of that one though. Now these far corners, the outside blocks aren't going to copy on this, but the inside blocks will. Okay, so pretty cool with that right now. And let's do a little copying. Go to selection. Big time savings though. If I had to individually do every one of those, that would suck, or even in symmetry. Just takes longer. Two more, I think. I think that should do it. Okay. Alright. Well, I'm thinking you kind of get the idea on how these things are textured. The Skaar's not super difficult to texture, really, once you kind of learn, well, come up with some kind of scheme and things like that. Like over here, I'm kind of doing that, but this one started to get a little bit more tweaked though. I started to get some more textures in there and some breakups in textures. Still looking at it to try to enhance it, of course. It's a little squirrely here with my line colorings over on the side, but in a weird sense, so I kind of like the weird off-put look of that. It kind of looks crude-ish, which it's supposed to look. And occasionally, too, just to enhance some details, like I just put a random little ring of decals or little box of decals over that area. Only in places like that, you know, on the whole thing. Little line there. Adding in some of these things, whatever they're called again. I like that too. That gives it, you know, they look kind of crude anyway. I did that in just a couple places on here, just weird little accent things, and then this just random thing in the middle there, which I don't know. It all seems to just fit pretty well when you look at it as a whole. I'm gonna do one last texturing part over here on this, and then we'll probably call this video for the day here. But I just kind of wanted to show you how Skaar gets textured and kind of the things that I'm looking at when doing it. I'm going extra dark on these here. Bottom here, I'll just do some gray because it contrasts a little bit more with the dark gray next to it. Oh, I didn't do the front two turrets. Crap. Oh, well, let's do that real quick. Slap some turrets back down on here real quick. I'll have to sort out what turrets are going to go where later on, so it has the right count limits and whatnot. Alright, well, I kind of get the idea of this. And it is moving along, of course, you know, a little more enhancements here and there, and problems and fixing stuff, and then another step too, especially because of how this is getting textured in the first place, would be to get out of symmetry. Is that the right shade there? No. What did I use there? Well, it would be to try to go from side to side and do what you can to try to get the seam lines to look the best you can, and sometimes replace some textures where they just are a disaster, if possible, like in these corners. The problem, though, with this particular base texture is there is no alternative that matches. Like with the other races, I would be able to put in, say, a flat here, and then, you know, just have the lines on the other part. That doesn't work really with this race, or this texture, I should say. Well, more missing stuff. What did I do on the other side there? Those. I think that was dark too, yeah, okay. That should also be, oops, that shade, and that shade. And that's missing too. Okay. Oh, more missing stuff up here. Here. Then another area too, besides probably looking around to see if there's more decals and things that could be added in places, would be to try to get some deco thingies on here, as long as they don't interfere with turrets. There's not a lot of opportunity because I do usually a fair amount of stuff with the blocks, but you never know. Sometimes you can get some things to look kind of neat. Like maybe that there, a couple like vents up on the front part there. I think this area is fair game because there's no turrets. The artillery can shoot over. So I could probably put in something wacky here. Maybe something like that. Maybe even something like that. Well, anyway, I hope you all have a good day. My release schedule currently is this is the next release item. Probably this upcoming weekend, I'll have this out. I'm going to kind of try to get the tank done by then as well. So it's kind of like a set. The problem is this is for Excalibur's challenge, so it's got more of a time thing on it. I don't like to release more than one thing a week. And it seems kind of a little backwards to release the this first and then a tank for it. But I mean, this can work with awful lot of tanks out there, or HVs, anyway. And then I still got this to release, which is just a smaller tier 2 HV, a little more holds a lot more storage and things than what this guy does. And then of course these defense towers. And I might not release this one, the one without the solar, at all. I like it, but the solar one, honestly, is just more practical. If I was going to pick between the two in the game, I would probably go for the solar one because, obviously, I don't have to worry as much about fuel for it, which is great. So those are a bunch of stuff that's going to be released. So expect a lot of Skaar stuff in the near future. I mean, nothing really big at this point in time, but I also got a request to build a Creel landing pad. And that is something I might do in a video because that's going to be dealing, if I do it, which I do plan on doing it similar to other like the landing pads, like the Foundation XL. It would utilize a lot of copying and pasting, where those things actually don't take that long to build. You can build like one section, texture it, detail it fully, and then just start copying that all over the place. Um, Similar to how how the turret little insets were done on all of this. Um, which I think adds just a little bit of detail. You know, it didn't cost anything. It's just you're getting that extra little something underneath the turrets. Now, of course, yeah, all these could be retractable turrets as well, but my philosophy on retractable turrets, especially for a tank, is there's no point in it. With the retractable turrets, I would lose this whole 9 blocks of combat steel below it, which is way more hit points than what the retractable turret itself would have. Now you got a turret on top of that extra layer, so this is far tougher. And being Skaar, they're more about showing their guns than hiding their guns. It's just, it doesn't fit with them. They're not trying to be stealthy. They're trying to look fierce. So that's their deal. All right. Well, anyway, y'all have yourself a good day. I'll see you later.